Hi, folks, and welcome to the Creative Nomad. I am so excited today. We have Alondo Brewington, and he is absolutely amazing. He's been traveling for the last 3 years all around the world. He's a software developer, and I just want to kind of introduce you to him and go from there. So, welcome, Alondo. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today. I'm really excited.
Thank you. I am too. You're actually my very first full interview.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm honored. This is cool. First time. Let's make sure we do this right.
Yeah, I my interview. I had an interview scheduled yesterday that they had the time zones messed up, so it was like, oh, you get to be my first. It's great.
Yeah, time zones are really, really crazy, man. It's one of those things where we've scheduled meetings with partners in work and things like that, and it's always like, wait, what country are you in right now? Like, where are you in the world? Just to make sure, because it's always a struggle to make sure you get it right.
Yeah, and it's funny because the booking software that I use, I'm using Zoho's booking software, and because they're international and they're really heavy in in less in the United States than they are outside the United States. So normally we're so used to everything being United States centric, and like Eastern's right at the top. And I actually search all the time because I can never find my time zone. So I end up just punching in Detroit and having it come up.
Yeah. Yeah, after 3 years, I've learned to like just do it based on GMT, like plus or minus the number. So it's like I'm GMT -5 right now. So it's just like one of those things like, okay, I don't even look at the Eastern Central. I don't know what time zone I'm in. The only time I even have to do that is when I call home and I talk to my grandpa. Like
Uh-huh.
he wants to know like what it is in time zone. So then I have to look it up and translate. Like, oh yeah, I'm in this one. I'm in Mountain or Pacific or something that's way off usually.
Yeah, just way off the grid.
Yeah, I just named the country. I'm like, no, there's no corresponding time zone to this one, perhaps.
So where are you at the moment?
I'm currently in Medellin, Colombia. I've been here for a few weeks. This is my second trip here. I was here a year ago, and I really enjoyed it. Stayed quite a while, actually longer than I was supposed to. But so I made my way back here to enjoy the wonderful weather, the food, the people, the music, and right now the Gold Cup is going on for football, and so the
Wow.
Colombian team is playing really well. They just won again yesterday, and so it's just like this is a great time to be here because the fans are just electric here. When Colombia's playing well, it's just a great time to be here.
I can imagine. I know that even here in this local area, we actually have a football team and soccer team, but they are
You had it right
actually.
the first time.
I had it right. The FUT football, um,
Yes.
and it was funny though because here it's actually pretty big in Detroit. We support our sports teams. It doesn't matter if they win or lose or whatever, and it's actually local to where I am right now. It's not actually in the city. It's just outside. And so I see people with jerseys on all the time from the stadium because they play like a mile away from here.
Yeah, the excitement I think is growing in the States. So I left, I used to live in Atlanta, that's where I'm from,
Okay.
and I left right before the United came. And so I've only been following the team remotely now. But our team won the championship last year, and
Wow.
this is such an excitement there for football in the city. I mean, it had been growing. You see kids playing and things like that, but now you're seeing more and more adults, and a lot of people who played growing up now are having kids. So you're starting to really see it grow in popularity in the U.S. Still hasn't quite translated to the quality of men's play on the international stage. The women are doing great. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been great for a long, long time. But hopefully, it'll like those younger players growing up, it'll start to take shape, and we can get out of the qualifying stages, the World Cup at some point.
Yeah, at some
Again,
point,
yeah,
at least the guys, the girls,
yeah. Oh
didn't we
yeah.
like place not too long ago? Like, we were way up there.
Yeah, we're currently so there's the World Cup is going on. The Women's World Cup is going on right now, and the women's team has won multiple times. They've actually won it a couple of times, and so right now they are pretty dominant. I mean, their first match against Thailand actually was pretty brutal. 17, I think it was 17-0 was the final score, and
Wow.
it's just like Yeah, they're a pretty dominant team. They play really well. They show up on the world stage. It's an exciting time. So that's going on as well as the Gold Cup. So we've got two big tournaments going on right now. And if you're a sports fan, if you like football, then that's great. If you're in the States, of course, it's still baseball, and that's it's going pretty well. Braves are actually leading. I just want to note that again, another Atlanta team.
I'm trying to think. I actually did know where the Tigers were. I'm outside of Detroit right now.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I actually did know where the Tigers were last week. We were doing okay. We're in mid of pack this year.
Yeah, I traveled with a Tigers fan a couple of years ago when the team was doing phenomenal. So it's like, and it's difficult to keep up though, honestly, like live sports with the time zone difference. Because at the time, I think we were in Thailand or Vietnam. So we were like literally on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And getting up to watch a game, it's like, oh, well, you have to get up at, 7 o'clock in the morning or something like that, because the game may start at 7. And it is a little difficult to follow the live sports that are in the States, like during football season, basketball season, things like that. But you make it happen. It's like a lot of times I'm just watching recaps on the internet, like on like an ESPN or Google or something like that.
Yeah, I actually followed Drum Corps International, and so it's professional level marching band. That's the best way I can put it.
Okay.
They're not paid, but they are like literally the world standard of musicians. And opening night was last night here in Detroit, which was amazing. It's never in Detroit. Nothing's ever in Detroit for them. And I was at Ford Field with about 50,000 people watching this amazing show that's broadcasted all around the world in theaters. So and it's always great. But I'm watching it on YouTube and doing things like that and checking up and, just checking in on scores.
Yeah.
So I understand. Sports are every so often, every few years, I'll get into something. I'll like catch something and I'll be in like that fever, like something will be interesting and I'll follow that team throughout the whole thing. And then it'll be like, oh, okay.
Well, that's an interesting thing about like the world tournaments. You can even if the U.S. isn't playing or they're not playing well, you can always like pick another country, like you say, and just follow them. And just like they're exuberant fans that you can just like, okay, this is my team for these 2 weeks. I'm following them. I'm rooting for them, and it's really cool. I've done that multiple times.
Yeah, whatever country you're in, you root for the home team.
Usually what it is. It's whatever. When I was in Morocco, I was like cheering for Morocco. I'm like, yeah, all right, Morocco. I do, it's sometimes it's some sports, some newer things. Like I'm just learning, I'm just watching. I'm like, oh wait, this is a thing here. Like, but football is easy because like it's played everywhere. So everybody gets that. Cricket is the one I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Like I just like, it's not over today. Wait, we're still playing tomorrow. Like it's the same game. Like, yeah.
You have to turn around 3 times and then hit the ball. So then,
I don't get it. I don't get it. But some people love it. They really do. They love it. So I'm like, hey, more power to you.
Believe it or not, that's American football for me. I can't understand that game. I've tried. We do a whole thing when I was in school. We had a whole segment in gym where we went through each major sport to learn the rules and stuff like that. And it's one wall running in another wall. And and you're trying to get to the other side. That part I understand, but anything else than that, I'm like, okay, no, first down, fourth down, third down, what? So
here's a secret: a lot of football fans don't actually understand a lot of the intricacies of the game at all.
Yeah,
they really don't. It's like you hear them talking, I'm like, that's not how that works.
It's just craziness. So, where's your favorite place that you've been so far?
So that's a great question. And for me, it keeps changing because every time I find a new place, I learn something new, I discover something new, and then that list changes. So at this point, I can only say I have like a few places at the top of my travel list that I love and that I would go back to. So more than just, I went the first time, I fell in love with this place. It was amazing. It's like, what is the revisit like quality? Like how likely am I to go back to a place? So at
Yeah,
the top of my list right now, I'm here in Medellin. So that obviously it's one of the cities. Medellin, Colombia's Chiang Mai, Thailand, just Thailand in general, honestly, just the entire country, south, north, Lisbon, Portugal, which I'm hoping to get back to before the end of this summer. I really miss being in the city. I really miss bacalao. I really just miss walking those hilly streets. And then Mexico City, Mexico, which is one I did not expect. I went there a year ago at the suggestion of a friend who was there. Just said, come and visit, hang out for a bit. You'll like it. And I got there and I fell in love with it. And I ended up staying there for about a year. So I ended up being there for a total of a year in the last 2 years, just because I enjoyed being there so much. And there's so much to love about that city. I really feel like many people travel, they have this huge misconception about Mexico. Most people who don't travel have misconceptions about just about everywhere in the world, but
yeah,
Mexico in particular, because like there's such press about Mexico in the US that like if you go there and then to go to that city in particular, not going to Cancun, not going to like the beaches, the resorts, but that city is so vibrant and so alive and there's so much going on there. And it's just it's amazing. Like I still have to go back, just take it all in. Like I've only sampled, I would say maybe 15 to 20% of what that city has to offer.
oh wow. Yeah, I was there the weekend they opened Taco Bell. I worked for Yum Brands.
Okay.
So, so I was there that weekend doing, in the one role I was in, I was a marketing director for the area, and my market won every award known to man. So they sent me to Mexico City to help them open up Taco Bell. It was part of my reward. And it was funny because they were lined up. If you've seen, did you ever see like the press about that? It's actually really funny. They're like, we don't have anything like this here. Taco Bell. And Mexico City was like, we don't know what this is like. We don't have things like this here. And so in the middle of Mexico, our Mexican restaurant isn't, they're like, I don't know what this is. What the hell is this?
Yeah, that's amazing to me because like I really feel like until I got to Mexico, I didn't know what a real taco was.
Yeah.
And discovering like street tacos there, I'm a big fan of street food, which is why Thailand and Mexico City and Kuala Lumpur are like the top 3 cities for me for just street food.
Okay.
Like to be able to go out at any time of day and say, I want something to eat. There are vendors lined up. They're making this food and you can try just about anything. And it's amazing. And so having tacos in Mexico City, being in Mexico, like discovering the al pastor, which is the pork tacos like served look, I thought it was shawarma. I was like, wait a minute, they have shawarma here? And it's like, no. The al pastor. And then just like discovering that delicious taste of that meat with the pineapple and the cilantro, it's just like, it's amazing. So, but it was weird to see American franchises there, though, because there's a Krispy Kreme donuts like there wasn't far from my first apartment, and I'm going to Walmart. So that's my driver when they drove me to the city. It's like there's Walmart everywhere here. It's like don't worry about it. You can buy anything you want. It's like go to Walmart. And then he goes, but there's a Super Walmart a couple of blocks. I'm like, wait, you have Walmart and Super Walmart? It's like, yeah. But then I saw the Krispy Kreme and my mind was blown. I was like, I can get hot Krispy Kreme donuts like here in Mexico City. So they have everything there. It's such a large city with so many franchises there now that it on some level it almost doesn't feel like leaving the US because so much of that experience you can have. Yeah. And then, but then you get into like go into the neighborhood and like, away from the main strips where the malls and stuff are, you can get the real local culture, local flavors, local things that you want. But it's nice because you can have both. It's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Have you found that to be true in other places?
I will say in some places, yes. In some places, one thing that's ubiquitous that I've noticed now in the world, I've yet to go to a city or a country that doesn't have a mall.
Okay.
And like and the malls are all the same. Like, I mean, you walk in the mall, it has the same dynamic. You have the older people walking around just trying to spend their time. You got the groups of teenagers giggling and going, doing their thing. And then you just got regular people like families and individuals just doing their thing. Nobody does malls like Asia does. They have taken the mall to the next level. In Kuala Lumpur, there's a mall that I love go to. It's about 8 levels, maybe 9 levels in it. And it's every floor has a food court. They are serious about their food. So it's amazing. It's just like, as it was explained to me when I got there, it's like we eat like hobbits here. Like they just eat. Like there's breakfast and then there's second breakfast and then there's like, you just keep eating. So that's the one place that I would say, like, if you really want to experience like this incredible food and mall life culture, and it's so hot, you actually do spend a lot of time in the malls because that's the one place that's air conditioned.
Okay.
So you go into the malls, it's like super air conditioned and it's good. Very few places I've been, but most of my travels have been to capital cities. I don't tend to go to like some of the smaller cities or out of the way places unless it's like a side trip or day trip or something like that. And I would say probably the closest to that is like Bolivia, where I've spent more time just out away from anything. And that is where it really is different. It's a different experience. I would say a lot of the places though, you'll find connection points. You're always like, I'm always looking for a way to connect other people too. It's like shared experiences, what we have in common. And a lot of that, of course, is around food because I find that that's just a great unifier. But you'll see, like, I see a lot of the same kinds of things done different. As the Asian phrase goes, same but different. Like, so you go there, just like T-shirts printed up, and they'll tell you, it's like, oh, how was it Thailand like versus Cambodia? It's like, same but different, And I find it to be true just about everywhere. Most of the world is the same, but everybody has there's a different foods that you eat, different cultural things, but there's just this similarity that you just fall into, And I think that's great. That's why I love it.
Yeah, I can totally understand that, and it's actually funny when you say that because working for a corporate, I work for Yum Brands. Mm-hmm. So, Pizza Hut is the best place to get a picture of the pyramids in Cairo. You can actually, it has like this amazing place, but they have it so perfectly that the Pizza Hut logo is in all the pictures.
Yeah.
So if you look online, you can find a whole bunch of them with pictures of the pyramids, the Great Pyramid, with Pizza Hut right there because Cairo is like right there.
So that's amazing because like I see these movies and they show like the pyramids and they try to make it look like it's just out in the middle of nowhere, but it's apparently it's just right in the middle of town.
Across the street. Okay, so one side, so the side that you see is filmed from Cairo basically and goes out into the desert, right? Everything's all pretty. It's in the desert. Oh, it's beautiful, right? If you turn that camera around, you literally across the street, there's a Pizza Hut, like across the street, and the hotel is next to the Pizza Hut. In the Middle East, here in the States, they had a crust that came out. The stuffed crust pizza started in across in the Middle East. They have another one that's called King Crust, and I don't remember what we call it here, but it had little bits of shawarma in it around the crust.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good.
And it's all halal, and it's for the Middle East. So, but it's funny, we brought that here, and I knew about it like 2 years before. I'm like, oh, it was there. But there's all kinds of as you were saying, the connection points. There's so many different things around, especially around food.
Yeah, it's that's pretty cool to know though. I was going to go to Egypt when I was in Morocco because I was there for like 5 weeks, and I was like, well, I'll have time to take these side trips. But I ended up just as like a small trip, staying in Marrakesh, and did not end up making the trip. But it's on my bucket list. Like I definitely want to get to Egypt and to see the pyramids and a few other, there's tons of other places to see, but it's those things where I've gotten to a point where I've slowed down in my travel. I'm not changing locations as much because I started with a travel program and I did that for the first year. And
Yep.
then I just kept that pace up and we were doing a different country every month. So like every 4 to
Wow.
5 weeks, like you not only leave the city, you leave the country, you go to a different country. So it's like immigration every month, like boom, going through immigration every single month, go somewhere different. And I got that pace I kept up for a bit after, but then I got tired of it. And I realized that I really like slower travel. And so I tend now to spend, between a month to 3 months, sometimes even 6. Like Mexico City, they give you just on entry as an American, you get 180 days on a tourist visa. So
Oh, nice.
that's plenty of time to just stay. And I know people who basically just swap, they hop. So you just have to leave the country for I think 48 to 72 hours, and you come right back.
Oh, wow.
And that's it. So there are people who just live. There's tons of Americans that just live in Mexico. Like they just live there. And it's like, oh, they'll go to Guatemala for like a week or go to Costa Rica for a week and come back. And it's like they're back home,
Yeah.
Haven't officially immigrated,
It's really funny because in the RV community, a lot of people end up just going into Mexico and getting lost. I'm just gonna go to Mexico and they don't come back, and they're videotaping and it's not like they're lost, but they accidentally forgot how to come home.
Yeah, I can see it though. I mean, it's one of those places that I never thought I would travel to outside of like, oh, we'll go to Cancun or something like that. But then the regions are they each have just such personality and like there's so much going on there. It really, oh wow, it's an amazing place. Like it really is. But almost every place I've been has that quality to it. It's where you go and it's just like absolutely fascinating. But and that's a good thing about it though too. It's like you can find places that suit your taste. I know countries that people love that I'm like, I don't think I'm ever going back there. And then I love places, I know people that absolutely are not. Like Bolivia is high on that list. I know people like, if they never set foot in Bolivia again, but then I have friends like, we love it there. Just like, oh, I can't wait to go back, So the world is fascinating like that. There's a place for you. There's probably multiple places for you on this planet, honestly.
Yeah. So what makes Bolivia one of those places that you absolutely love?
So it was the first Latin American country that I went to where I really felt like I was experiencing a different culture. Okay. So my first 2 stops were, we went to Uruguay. So I was in Montevideo, I was in Uruguay for a while. And then I went to Argentina. So we were in Buenos Aires. And those are just big cities to me that, Montevideo not so much. It's not as big as Buenos Aires, but they still had city feels. Like Montevideo felt like being in like, like a Cleveland or Louisville or, maybe not a mega city, but like everything's there. And the only difference to me was, okay, the food's a bit different, but you can get that in the U.S. Like you travel around the U.S., you can get the different cuisines in the different parts of the country, and they spoke Spanish. So the language barrier was one thing, but outside of that, it didn't feel very different. When I got to Bolivia, everything was different. From the fact that as soon as you land, you're landing at this airport that's way up in the like 10,000, 11,000 feet. So instantly the environment is just letting you know by how hard it is to breathe. This is going to be a little different. So just start from there. And going into the city, La Paz is like, it was the first city that I had been in that the city sits in a valley in the mountain range, but the city itself goes up into the hills, up into the mountains as well. Wow. And I had not experienced that before. And then I was watching you walk on the streets and I'm like, wait, is that a llama? Like the person's just like walking one down the road, and these ladies, the cholitas are like walking, they have the hats, and then they're carrying the babies on their backs. And these babies are in these little, like, I guess like papoose type things, like they're bundled all up. And you see these just adorable little cute chubby cheek faces like hanging out of the back, and just like, oh wow, okay. And the food, the way they go about the day, it's like, it was just my first experience with a culture that was just very, very different. And so I loved it. And then I got a chance to get out of the city and spend a lot of time like up in the mountains and experiencing more of the natural areas. And that was just amazing. And so that was really what sold it, was like getting that combination of a city that was different, plus getting out and just seeing just some natural areas and the rivers and like in the mountains and hiking and riding RV, or not RVs, but ATVs.
Yeah.
And it just, for me, was just a new experience for me. And that was my first time. So for me, it was just definitely groundbreaking. And I still enjoy being there. I got a chance also to volunteer with some of the community gardens there. So they actually they're really trying to change the diet, because it's very staple heavy. So it's very meat and potatoes, a lot of, and they want to introduce some different nutrients. And so one of the leaders of the charity that she runs like a community garden, and they actually have space in the city up the hill where you can go and do a plot, and they teach you how to plant things other than potatoes, because that's their bigger like, no, don't plant potatoes. We don't need any more potatoes. And introducing some new vegetables and things of that nature. And so it was a lot of fun. Like, I spent some time up there just breaking. It's very rocky soil, so you really do have to work to like create these beds where you can plant. And that's all I did. I just go up there and just create space. And I had a gardening background as a kid. Was my grandfather in Carolina. He was just adamant that he had to leave the farm. All my grandparents had to leave farms at some point.
Okay.
And they all moved into the cities. But my grandfather kept that dream alive, because any spare space he had of land, he was growing food on it. And so I just grew up doing that. And so it's a part of me that I was like, oh yeah, you got to clear. Sometimes you got to clear, you got to get rid of some stones and some rocks to make way for some soil that you can plant some things on. And so it was a good sort of, again, that connective experience to back home. It reminded me of being in a place and something that I knew.
Yeah, I can understand that. Do you find a language barrier being an issue? Jumping, how many different languages do you actually speak?
Well, only two. I only speak Spanish and English, where I feel comfortable anywhere. And Spanish, is pretty, you can find it most places in it's Latin America, aside from Brazil. Pretty much, like, I speak a little Portuguese. It's not great. I did try to learn Vietnamese. I've tried to learn Thai. I've tried to learn Arabic, and I've tried to learn Mandarin. And they are all very, very difficult for me to like really grasp. I do pride myself that I can order a beer just about anywhere on the planet. But that's only like a number and a word. So, and please. So I do try to like learn how to the basic greetings. It can be difficult. When I was in Serbia, that was really challenging, because they use a Cyrillic alphabet. Mm-hmm. So you go out and you see signs, and it's like, wait, I don't even know how to get to this street. Someone's like, oh, it's on this street. It's like I don't recognize this alphabet at all. So that was probably like where the script is different. It's much more of a challenge. Even if the spoken language isn't that hard. And that's a big one. That one's like, I would say Serbia, Vietnam to some degree, Thailand to some degree, although there's so much Western influence in a lot of those countries, and I'm in the big cities. When you go out though, like in Cambodia, you go out, it's a little bit different. But if you're in the cities, it's actually not so bad. Like I have not had much trouble anywhere in the world in a city getting around. One, you run into a lot of people who speak English. English is actually pretty much the lingua franca of business and so many things. So, and I learned air traffic control. I have a friend, we were in Czech Republic. He got he got his license to fly in Europe. And so I went up with him in this little plane for like just celebrating, basically. It's like, oh, I can fly now. So we go get the plane and we go up. And I actually got to fly it for a little bit as well, which was a lot of fun. But it was weird because air traffic control was all in English. And I was like, wait a minute, like we're in Czech Republic. Like, I don't hear any, like, he's like, yeah, all air traffic control is in English. It's like all the airports, and it makes sense. So you have a common way with international flights and flying everywhere. Mm-hmm. It would seem to make sense to have like one language that people can speak to. So being fortunate enough to be born in an English-speaking country makes it a little bit easier. I can't imagine coming from somewhere where I didn't grow up speaking English and trying to travel, because that to me would be a bigger challenge.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I don't pick up language very well, so it's kind of funny for me. That's one of my major concerns about traveling is like I don't pick up language. Um, Whereas my brother speaks like three fluently, and it's like because he had a employee that walked in and started speaking to him. He goes, "Oh, and boo," and I'm like, "How did you do that?" It just doesn't. It doesn't
So we
stick.
were just having a conversation. So we had a conversation about that at a cafe here the other day. I was talking to another American from New York, and we were talking about, and he had another friend that was from Venezuela who immigrated to Colombia, and we were talking about the ways to learn the language. And the biggest thing was like immersion. If you really, you have to be. And it came to, I've heard this so many times. But I heard it again. He's just like, no. He's like, dating will definitely get you a lot further because you're having to express non sort of transactional things in that
Mhm.
language. So it's not just like, oh, can I have a cup of coffee? Or where is the biblioteca? Like you're not saying
Yeah,
those kinds of things. You're having to go like, I feel this way. This is what I'm thinking. You really have to go deeper, and it really helps elevate your ability to communicate with other people being in that type of relationship versus just a business type relationship or just like a commercial, like, transacting. So my suggestion is when you get somewhere, jump on one of the dating things or go out to one of the and like start meeting people, like, cause that's the best way to do it, really, to have those kinds of conversations.
yeah. It's funny back when. Wow, I'm gonna date myself a little bit. Back when there were chat rooms, I learned computers. The reason why I could do what I do now is because
Yeah.
of chat rooms. Because
Yes.
I had brain surgery back in '97, so
Oh, wow.
there wasn't a computer in my house until '96,
Okay.
and I didn't live there at the time when they got the computer. But I moved back home when I had the surgery, and I couldn't. Um, Black and white is very difficult to read if you've had injuries. So
Okay.
and at that point, you can actually lock websites, and so it was easier for me to read, and I could
Hmm.
do that a lot easier. You can't. I don't think you could do that anymore because the HTML is completely different.
Oh, it's a nightmare now.
Yeah. So but I started learning web design because I was in a chat room and everyone had a website. So of course I had to go and create a website, and then I started, and I'm a naturally an artist, so I end up having nicer websites and started doing graphic design and started doing all that. But it was all because of me in learning how to type, having to learn how to type from that. So I could completely understand how that would be how you would learn a language is by dating somebody or getting on on an app or something like that.
Yeah, it's the usage. You have to have the repetition because you'll always fall back to your native tongue otherwise. Like it's so easy for me, and because a lot of my work is in English, it's actually made it more difficult for me to on a day-to-day basis because of people here speak English, people in Mexico speak English, and my work is in English. And so when I want to, I really have to like get myself away from all these things and immerse myself in a situation, a conversation, go down the street, and sit and just talk to people to be able to even use the Spanish, because
Yeah.
people find out you speak English, they want to learn English. They're like, oh, well, let's work in English. I'm like, oh, hold on, I want to speak in Spanish.
No, no, I'm trying to work on Spanish. Thank you.
Yeah,
you Today we'll speak in Spanish. Tomorrow we'll speak in English. We heck
exactly.
here. We'll have a coffee.
So it's funny. I found a couple of groups. I made some friends in Mexico City that way, and it was really cool because two brothers host a language exchange, and it's for people to learn Spanish coming to the U.S. in a relaxed setting. You come, you meet, and hang out. But so we just start hanging out, and so we would do that. So we start working out, and so we'll do one workout in English, and then we'll do another workout in Spanish to make it like, I'm able to practice. So then I have to explain like exercises. This one thing, I understand how to do this exercise in English. Can I explain it to someone in Spanish how to do the next exercise or something like that?
Yeah, yeah. So how do you're in shape. So how do you keep in shape when you're on the road? Do you find that to be difficult or?
It can be, depending on the kind of workout that you like to do. And for me, I challenged myself from day one that I had a no gym rule, no gym, no excuses. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I wanted to make sure that I could never say, oh man, the city doesn't have a gym, or I can't get to the gym, it's on the other side of town, I can't work out today. It's like, nope. In the square room, and I had a very small room in this apartment in London, and I can still work. If I can plank and do a push-up and a sit-up, I can work out. That's my basic like rule. As long as I can be prone, I can get in. And there's so many exercises you can do in that space. And so I became a big fan of HIIT training, high intensity interval training.
Okay.
So it's like there's apps like the 7-minute workout, right? You just cycle through that a couple of times, but you're constantly moving. You do an exercise for 30 seconds and you rest for 10 seconds. And so after a while, I learned how to tweak that. And I used to box. So like, I'm a big fan of martial arts. I've studied like tons of them over the course of my life. And I try to keep that going. So when I have space, I make sure I do. So now I have a routine that incorporates HIIT training with boxing training. I'm a little Muay Thai too, but I don't have I can't just kick everything everywhere. So I have to make sure it's so I try to work more on like spacing and making sure like my footwork and these kinds of things are still going, and I'm not losing that. So when I get to a place that has a gym, or I have a facility, like when I was in Thailand, I was living in Copenhagen, I could train. Like there's actual places like I can just go and train and do everything. When I'm back in the States, there's a gym locally that's run by a great guy who's he has this program to keep kids out of trouble. So there's an after-school boxing program, and he's grown that gym. And so I try to support that gym with donations and equipment, but then go in there and want to train as well. It's get in here and get that work, as we say. But when I'm traveling, I don't necessarily have that. I try to run, but it's really hard on the knees. So I don't do it as much. So I really do a simple 20 to 30 minute workout that I can do in my room. And that is what gets me going, it keeps me it keeps at least a base level of fitness, a base level of cardio, a base level of just strength maintenance. I'm not a big guy. I'm not going to be a bodybuilder or anything, but it keeps me in a relatively good place shape-wise. And then I can go eat tacos, which is again, I love to eat, man. Eating is probably my number one favorite activity every day. So,
That's awesome.
And I want to maintain a certain level of health, though. I want to be able to move, and I walk a lot. One great thing about traveling is there's great transportation in a lot of these cities, but I'm a big proponent of walking when you can, and it's a way that I explore the area. I get to learn my neighborhood. I get to get out and see the city. So I'm a big proponent of walking. So I challenge myself to average 10,000 steps today. That's which forces me to leave the house. I can't do that and stay home. That's why that number is so high, because you can get 3,000 to 4,000 steps in just walking around the apartment or going in your building, whatever. But you can't hit 10 without leaving and getting out into the world.
Yeah, we used to joke when Fitbits first came out. I was still in restaurant work, and so they had the counters, and the waitresses would say, I get 20,000 on a shift, 20,000 steps. I don't have to go and do anything else. Yeah. And because people were always like, why are your waitresses always so thin? I'm like, because they run their ass off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that I don't have that because of the nature of my job. I'm sitting at a computer. So I have to have something else that's going to spark that. I haven't worked in a restaurant in a long time, probably since college. But you are moving around. You're constantly and I don't have that. So it's I had to supplement it some type of way. And it's not good to just sit at the computer for hours and hours and hours on end. It's just not healthy.
I actually did a whole video on that not too long ago, and moved into having a yoga ball instead of a chair, because it messed everything. And then I know a lot of people have the standing desk now, that because they just can't do. I am on a computer now. I mean, I haven't been in a restaurant in 10 years almost now, but it's interesting for me because I have to force myself to get out. So I have to force myself to do these things. And when I moved from Philadelphia back to Detroit, I went from walking everywhere Like I would walk 2 miles without even thinking about it because that's just what you do. You go, it's either take the bus or, you do public transportation. I lived in Philadelphia, so you just didn't have a car. Your
Yeah.
parking, your parking spot was $250 and it wasn't guaranteed to be anywhere near you. So literally you would,
See,
even for,
I couldn't imagine.
so I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
um, no, I don't think I don't think I ever got my license switched over to Philadelphia because I didn't need
Okay.
to. Um,
Yeah, it seems like that's a city like New York or some of these places where
mhm.
you don't need a car to get around. And it almost doesn't make sense. Versus Atlanta, where you have to have a car to get around because the public transportation just doesn't. It's just not that good.
And Philadelphia is, or Michigan is, Detroit is like the worst in the country. It's the reason we didn't get the Google headquarters. Literally, the reason they
Okay.
listed why we didn't get it, because they wanted to, and they did a whole bunch of stuff here. As a matter of fact, at the end of my block is a big, huge Google epicenter. So that they put in a hub for like the Midwest. So, but we were supposed to get the headquarters, and we end up not getting it because of the public transportation just being so shitty. And every
Yeah.
time they try to, there's the county I'm in now. It's just north of Detroit, and it's very segregated and it's very prejudiced, and they don't want public transportation, and it's rich, and
Yeah.
one of the three
It's
richest.
Atlanta. It's the same reason why. Yeah.
Yep, one of the one of the I think it's the third richest city is about 4 miles from where I am right now in the country.
Oh, is
It's
that
like,
all?
yeah,
Is that all auto money or something?
the big auto money, the
Yeah.
high executives, the CEOs live
Okay.
in Birmingham, and
Okay.
so it's like, okay, yeah. But if someone was trying to go and really wanted to go nomadic and really wanted to travel the world, what would be your way? What would be your advice to them?
Okay, so I would say the first thing is to make sure you have a way to sustain yourself. Like you really do want to make sure that your means of making a living are solid. And the reason why I say this is that I've watched people who actually, you need a backup plan too, honestly. I've seen people who started traveling, and this has actually happened to me too, where you have a base of income. So I started traveling. I had a full-time job, and I had a client that I was doing. I had on retainer that would do work for. So 3 months into the remote year program, which is what I was doing, a travel program called Remote Year. 3 months in, I quit the full-time job just because I really wanted to focus on the traveling part. I was experiencing some FOMO because I was missing some of these trips. I had some friends that went down to Patagonia, and like I didn't go because I was like, man, I can't take 12 days off to go hiking or whatever.
Yeah,
And people kept doing these trips. I'm like, I want to go. And I'm like, well, I really do want to explore this year more fully because I originally planned it to only do the year. I was going to do the year and I was going to go back home. So, but then I left that job. And then 2.5 months later, the retainer client said, well, you're maintaining an old version of this application. The user base has gotten down to this level. We don't really need this anymore. So we're going to suspend this now. We're not going to do this anymore. So now I'm like, oh, wait, like I left the job and I lost my side income.
yeah,
And so I really had to make some changes and do something different. And so if you're going to get started now, my benefit was I did have savings. Like I did have like a lot of money saved up.
hmm
So I was able to just, for a while, I just enjoyed traveling for a while. I'm going to be just frank. I did it up for a while. I was really just like a travel bum for a good amount of time. And then eventually I looked up and I said, oh, I probably do need to go back to work. I need to make some money. And then finding work that you can do remotely, because it's growing and it's changing, but not everybody is still comfortable with the idea of you working remotely. There was a company that I started working with, and they asked about coming on board full time. I was like, yeah, I do that. Like, but they were like, but you can't. I said, well, as long as I can keep working remotely. And they were like, no, we can't allow you to just keep working remotely. I'm like, you have an option to move to this city or this place. And I'm like, that's not what I want to do. I'm not interested in living in one place full time. So that's the freelancing. So lining up freelance work or lining up some sort of way to sustain yourself that's the first step. And then after that, I really think it's just a matter of like, you have to get out here. You don't know your travel style is going to change. You have to discover what that is. Like, do you want to be hopping from country to country frequently? Do you want to spend a week in one city, or are you a slower traveler? What do you want to bring with you? I promise you that will change over time. Like, I started with these bags of things like my must-haves, and like, it literally is like the Game of Thrones like show. Like, you have all these characters, and then they're like one by one, they just start like going away. It's like, whoop, you gotta go. It's like, and like I had at one point I had the equivalent of the Red Wedding. I'm just like, nope, all of this stuff has got to go out of here. Just like get rid of it. I can't do this anymore. But you learn what you can live with, and then you learn like what you can pick up as you're traveling. So there's things that like I don't need to travel with because I can always find it in a city. Even if you like to be in more far-flung areas, you're going to land at an airport in a city. So you maybe spend a day or two there before you get to your place. Do a little shopping, pick those little items up that you need at the market or malls, and there's almost always a mall. And then you can take that stuff with you. I have a friend that travels a lot, and she travels with, she's a cook, she's a chef. She travels with knives and spices.
Wow.
And so you find that thing you're committed to that you travel with. For me, I travel with my workout equipment. I have boxing gloves, I have hand wraps, I have all of my martial arts stuff. I used to have focus mitts because I used to train other people while I was traveling, and that just got to be too much. So I had to kind of ditch the training piece and just doing like the workouts. And maybe we can go to a gym that may have it. But you find your own way. And I think it evolves for everybody. So number one, have a means to keep traveling, financially support yourself. And then two, you really got to go into it knowing that you have to discover your own travel style and being open to change, being open to like what you think you might like because vacation and living abroad are two completely different things. Mm-hmm. I discovered I'm not a beach guy.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I was in Costa Rica late last year with the intent of staying there for like a month and a half to 2 months. And my friend and I, we got a place in Limon. So we're right on the Caribbean coast. We're on the Caribbean side. And after 2 weeks, I was literally going stir crazy. I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, I need to be in a city. Like, this is not like, so I learned that I like the beach, but I need some other stuff. The only exception is Koh Phangan, Thailand. Like, that is literally for me like living in paradise. Like, I just love being there. But I also had more things there to do than in Limon. Like, there was in town. They have every month there's a full moon party that comes through. So there's like a lot of partying and stuff going on if you're into that. But it's on the other side of the island for me. So I have the serene like place that I could just be quiet. I train Muay Thai, so I had a gym I go through, and I do my daily training, and then there's just amazing food like all over, and so you just eating this great local fresh food. So that I could do. Like, I did that even after a month. I was like, I don't want to leave. I'm loving this. But most of the time, like, I really do have a pull to a city. I like to be with a lot of people. I like the activity of a city. I just love that. My favorite thing, honestly, is to get up in the morning and to walk the city streets as people are preparing for their day. I just get something. I'm connected to that process of like getting started. This is what I'm doing. It's like every day is a new beginning. To watch the vendors like opening up their stalls and and you're prepping and they're chopping. It's just like there's just something about that I really, really like, and it kind of helps me set the tone for my day. And so it's great.
So what are the routines that you found that you like to keep throughout all the different countries? Do you have a routine that you like, a daily kind of idea?
So I do. And the first one's gonna probably make you laugh. I have to nap every day.
Okay.
And napping is a part of my routine. Like, I picked that up when I went to Spain, like the siesta there, and the shops would close. And I'm like, oh, y'all know what you're doing. Like, you've solved this. Like, why are we not doing this? Like, so naps are an important part of the day. Now, I'm very flexible though, because I'm a person that has to deal with a couple of things, like just personally, like being able to work around. So I have to make sure that my day is flexible. And that's one of the reasons why I live the way I do. And I've adopted this as my lifestyle because it works better for me than 9 to 5. Yeah. Having to be in an office for a set number of hours was just not optimal for me. I struggled a lot, even though I made it work. I struggled a lot with it. And it had a huge cost that I just don't think it wasn't healthy. So I decided to make this change. And for me, adequate rest is one of the things. And then I'm working when I'm at my peak. And then like the daily walks really help. So I have to get out, I have to walk. So I get the blood going and going. So my routine is basically in no particular order. I'm flexible about when I do it, but my daily exercise, which is 20 to 30 minutes, my daily walks, which are typically longer than that. That's when I usually listen to podcasts. So like I'm walking. So I usually have like a 1 or 2 podcasts on that I like to listen to. And then other than that, like I have my set sessions when I'm sitting down to do some work. But that depends on the projects that are coming in or, what I have on my plate. So I try to keep it while there is an overall structure, I want to be as flexible as possible within that. So it's I'm more of the mindset to make sure I do those things during the day. I make sure I get my workout in. I make sure I get my walk in. I make sure I get the work in. But when I do that, I'm a lot more flexible and fluid with.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, a lot of my clients, I tell them that they need to schedule 24 hours. So it's not necessarily that you have to do a certain thing at a certain time, but you need to schedule out your next day, all 24 hours. You don't have to work all that. You don't have, but schedule it out so that you can actually be productive when you're on the road. And really when you start working for yourself, working for your at home and things like that. When I do, everything goes well. Everything gets done. Everything's great. When I don't, and when I see other people that don't, nothing gets done. And they're like, oh, well, I've been around for 2 weeks and I made an image. Here, it's pretty.
Yeah, that's important too. I think like I use a lot of tools to I'm a big fan of things like the Pomodoro method, which I use a lot, where I set like 30 minutes or 50 minutes, because I don't always just do 25, 30 minutes with the break. I have a daily schedule. Like I keep a journal where I write. And the format of that has evolved. So coming from software, like I used to work in an agile shop. So we would do a daily stand-up as part of our daily scrum meeting. And so I still do that. And the format of my log in the journal is that. But I added some more holistic things like, did I exercise? Did I sleep? What is my mood like today? What is my energy level? What is my focus? I want to make sure that I'm mindful of not just the work, but how I am as a person and how I'm dealing with the things. And some days, like I have notes and just like, I didn't have it today. Like I just didn't, and it's okay. I try to arrange my work to have the flexibility so that I can have the off days. I can have the days where, I don't want to say, where I'm not able to get through and do things. And it's really, really important. It's a tougher thing to talk about though, because it's like, I know people talk about like depression and things like that more now and they're open, but like, I don't know like how other people deal with it. I've had to learn how to deal with it this way. This is how I was like, I went in and did therapy, and like I'm a no medications kind of person, so like, that was a showstopper for me. So I had to develop these other practices, and was told at the outset, this is good, if you don't do that, it's going to be a lot of work. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but I'm willing to do the work. And it's been great. So it's allowed me to like really manage myself in a way that I think it's beneficial to anybody to learn how to manage yourself. You really have to learn how to manage yourself on a day-to-day basis. Structure your day, structure your life, your diet, your exercise, and you have to find out what works for you. Some foods may not work well for you. Some exercises some people can't do. Like, I mean, that's fine. You can find other ways to accomplish these goals. I think in terms of getting things done, it's important to have some structure. So I do have these structures, and I use Trello as a software tool for like planning. I have all these boards. And then I set goals for myself. I set quarterly goals. Like, I started a podcast a few weeks ago. It's like, I guess I've been on for about a month now. It's like I'm on episode 11 or 12, and I actually have to record an episode today, actually.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm shipping an episode today, and then, that requires, again, I added this deliverable, so that has an impact on the schedule and how I go about my day. It's like, oh, wait a minute, if I want to get an episode out, there's the whole, like, this, like, you record and you got to edit, you got to do all this stuff, show notes, prep all the stuff, and get it out, get it done. And so having constraints and having deliverables is a good thing. Like, having just ample, like, free time isn't great. I find that in my development work, it's like, oh, well, you can just do anything. It's like, no, you want, and I'm learning to be a better designer. So I'm trying to restrict myself early to learn. Like, I do monochromatic designs when I build apps now. Like, that's where I start. It's like, I get one color and I can 5 shades. This is like, and maybe two fonts. Like, you get, well, one font and like maybe 2 weights, like, and like go to work.
Two fonts. You have your
2 fonts?
Yeah, go to 2 fonts. One is your major headings. Okay, so think of major headings. As a designer, I'm sorry. Let me give you some advice.
No, bring it.
You have 2 fonts. You have your major large font. The one, it could be a little more fancy. It could be a fancier font. It could be a script if you wanted it to, depending on the project, depending on what it could be something a little more crazy because it's bigger and you can read it, even though it's not, right?
Okay.
Try to keep that font similar to whatever the logo font is. Okay. And then you have your text font. And your text font should be really simple. You pick if it's serif or not sans serif. So sans serif would be stuff like Arial, or I like Corbel a lot. I use Corbel quite a bit.
Corbel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or serif would be Times New Roman, stuff that has a little edge. So they both have pros and cons depending on how big it is. It just all depends. When you're dealing with apps, though, you probably want to stay with a sans serif. So, yeah, and just in between the two, and then think if you're dealing with colors, monochromatic is beautiful and it can work really well. And I've seen things that have done well with it, but normally they don't. Try to just go across the color wheel. Contrasting colors.
All right.
Instead. That's the easy way. Like, I'm going to use red and blue. Okay, great. I'm using red and white. Okay, awesome. All right, that's my color scheme. Red and yellow. Okay, I'm playing with that color scheme. Okay, red is my color. So what else would be pretty with it? You don't want to necessarily design in red and purple, although they look really cool together if you're doing something that you're printing. It's actually really pretty if you're doing a real print kind of thing, but for the stuff that you're doing, the development stuff, you don't want to put something that's close to that together.
Okay.
Because it's gonna mess. It's gonna mess. It's gonna be too hard to read.
Okay. Cool. I can work with that.
Just easy stuff. Yeah. Just look across the color wheel. You want the contrast, and you kind of. And at this point, I'm so sick of seeing like blue and white. If you never ever develop in blue again, please just stop.
Yeah, blue is pretty heavy in the app space. Like, you see it a lot, especially in the icons. Like, blue icons are just like everywhere.
I tend to like
some
orange and
other
purple.
colors, and I did the way they came out. Yeah, so I tried to do something like that, and I feel like I just totally messed it up. And so then I'm like, well, blue's safe. Let me go back to blue. So blue's like the jab in boxing.
Yeah,
Like he's like, yeah, you just like go back to the jab until you can like do some other stuff. I don't
yeah.
know. But
Well,
I'm trying to get to a place where I can expand and really. So the purpose of me starting there was so that it's kind of like playing the scales in music. Like you learn that, and then I can learn how to do these other things. And I just wanted a base that I could start with without just being in the sea of color and sea of
yeah.
fonts, and like I don't know what to pick. And then someone's like, what is that? Like it's just like I don't want to make a mess.
I totally got that, and I have been in mass. Like
Okay.
I've done the red and purple together. That's why I could
Uh,
flat out tell you don't do it.
okay.
It looks really pretty when it's printed. It really does. It's really nice in like large scale, but in app form on a website, it doesn't work as much as you
Okay.
think it would. Um, yeah, like if you're across the color wheel, you're good. I would stay with Corbel. Is like one of my favorites. I like Abrima is another one. It's really common. Um, so you're gonna be.
Are these like freely available fonts, or are these fonts you have
Yep,
to buy?
freely
Okay.
available.
Okay.
Those are two of the ones I use quite frequently lately. Iris. If you need something a little more futuristic and spacey,
Mm-hmm.
Iris is good. It comes in like 5 different versions, like a bold to the demi. Um, what else? And Dancing Script. It's a Google
What's it
font.
called?
Dancing Script.
Dancing scripts.
Yeah, that's my typical. If you see me use anything, it's either that or Starry Night Madness or something. It's weird. I'll have to look it up for you. Send it
Okay.
over.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah,
But
that's a great. It's a great tip because I'm looking to get better, looking to improve, and I'm trying to find places to like put it to work. I took a lettering class once
mhm.
from a really good letterer. She's actually pretty well known, and she happened to be traveling with us at the time, and
Oh,
so that was fun. So I was looking for like other outlets like that to just kind of like learn to like express, start to like because I'm not the best at like drawing or anything like that. But I feel like if with practice, I could at least get better. It may never be great, but I could be better.
yeah. Yeah, and I've seen some of the stuff that I actually went to your website the other day, so I saw some of the stuff that you've been designing. And it's good. It's all right. I'm not. It just I like I said, stay away from blue. It's
Okay.
just one of those. I and I use a blue a lot, so it's kind of funny when I say this, but the blue I use is so gray and green oriented that I think
Okay.
I get away with it. But I
Okay.
use it with orange, so it's always or red, so it always
So,
is so contrasted that it's like the other color. Okay.
yeah, the blue and orange, like so that those are the colors from the company I used to work for. Those are like the for Team Snap, where their colors were blue and orange.
Yeah.
And then before that, I remember there was a wireless company called Singular
Uh huh.
for a while, and they used the blue and orange to great effect as well. I still remembered their logo, like
Yeah.
it just like stayed with me. And I
With
remember even liking to get their stuff, like because
yeah.
it looked so good on paper, the blue and orange
Uh
stuff.
huh.
I mean, it's a phone bill, but still, it's still like it looked great.
Singular is AT&T, so it was orange to begin with. They added the blue when the AT&T bought it, and then it went to
Hmm.
AT&T.
Yeah, yeah, went back to the blue.
It went to
Yeah,
blue, and you're like, okay, all right, it's blue. Great, thanks for blue. I don't know.
yeah.
I'm a designer. That's the first thing I notice. What color is it? Oh, it's blue. Okay, great, wonderful. So, um, and another thing, Uper is really good. I also deal with depression. So one of the
Okay.
things, one of the I actually did a challenge that helps my clients with keeping the voices at bay.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and you're kind of doing some of that, but Uper does a really good job of having it tracked for you and like really has you, and they'll remind you to do it like, and so
How's
you
that spelled?
Youper.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And other than that, you're doing everything I would suggest for that on that level, because I do, like I said, that's one of the things I help people with. I struggle with it. I was until um, January, February. I went on medications in February. I had a nervous breakdown last September,
Oh,
and still refused to go on medication. And so in February, I'm like, you know what? I know where this might lead, and I'm going to medicate at this point.
okay.
I'm just at that point. Let me balance. Let me get back to balance. Let me
Yeah.
find where that
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
And but I did a whole challenge around that of how I went from, like, literally I was falling on the ground, just falling out, depressed. I lost my dog. There was a whole bunch of things that happened.
Yeah, usually it's prompted. I mean, that was the trigger for me. It's like it wasn't just like something happens,
Yeah,
or usually it's multiple things happen, and it's just like the spiral, and it's just like it really takes you out. And
yeah,
that's how that was the start. I didn't even realize what was happening when I was younger, in college. I had trouble in school, and I remember a counselor saying something, but it didn't register to me when he said it.
hmm,
And then years later, I was like, oh, wait a minute. He was saying this back when I was 19.
yeah,
And but it took until I was in my 30s before I actually like formally went and got help to deal
uh,
with it. And then my life really just changed after that, because it changed the way that I saw myself. It
yeah,
changed the way I processed things. Um, and it really started to give me tools that would allow me to like handle these different situations, and handle when those episodes would happen, when, like, you get into the more depressive
hmm,
states, and it's like, okay, how do I, because there was a lot of judgment, like a lot of negative self-judgment earlier, and I had friends that, like, I would get teased, they didn't know what was going on, and like people would just say stuff, and I didn't even understand the impact it was having on all these different relationships. Like, I
right.
just thought, just me being me, like, oh, guys, you don't understand. And I didn't have any way to sort of quantify it at all. Like, I didn't know what was going on. So at this point, it's definitely it's been a lot better for me than it was like in my 20s. Definitely better than my 20s, and like my early 30s. Like, I've gotten to a point in my life now where I feel like I'm managing a lot better. I'm a lot more productive. I'm happier for
Yeah,
sure. And but I recognize too, also, like, life isn't perfect, and the days won't always be good, and they won't always. But I'm prepared for that now in a way that I just never was prepared for that before.
exactly. And that's one of the things that, like you said, yes, you can medicate, and yes, it is easier for me to stay into the states I need to stay in, right? But because I am medicated and I'm not collapsing
Yeah,
and at that point, so it takes off my bottom,
yeah,
little bit of the bottom edge of like, oh, okay, you know what, today I don't know if I can get out of bed today, and I know you've had those days, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have a not in bed day. Well, I was having too many of them in a row. Like, oh, I can't get out of bed.
yeah,
No, I can't get out of bed. No, I don't want to get off the couch. No, I don't want to, like,
yeah,
eat. So
yeah,
let me like, wait a second. And like I said, last summer or last September, I had the nervous breakdown, and it was like, and there was all that judgment, and I have all this training. I have all this, like, self positive intentions training. I have all this stuff through Landmark Worldwide. I have all this stuff through the Spiritual Life Center. I've
yeah,
taught, I've learned. I'm a law of attraction expert. I can tell you, like, things and walk through, and I just couldn't, like, and so I'm like, oh, I can't go get help.
yeah.
And I was like, I can't go get help. I'm an expert at this stuff. Why am I not having, okay?
Yeah.
And so I was working with a couple of people, and a couple coaches, which was wonderful, and not wonderful at the same time. I was working with a client that was real high stress. I was doing a financial advising,
Oh, okay.
and I'll never go back. Instead, I won't go back into sales ever again. Like, any type of sales, I know that's not gonna work for me unless I could do it online and you can come to me, okay, great. But if I had to go to you, I'm not doing it. So let's be clear. But
I think that's also a good point too, like that I didn't think about, but I've also removed myself from situations and environments that were toxic for me as well. And I think that's been important as well too.
yeah,
I think the traveling was a conscious, almost subconscious in some ways, decision to get myself away from certain situations and environments. And I think that was also important for my mental health, is that I'm not dealing with the day-to-day stresses that I was when I was living in the US. And I'm not ranting, I'm saying like the US is blah, blah, blah.
no,
That's not what I'm saying. But the situations and the places that I was in were stressful for me, and they were not, they were toxic environments for me, and I had to get out.
I totally understand that. I understand that. It's one of the reasons why I'm going nomadic, actually, is to,
Yeah.
I've spent the last 5 years, I'm a caregiver, and it's just time. It's time for me to go and
Yeah.
live my life and like
Yep.
clear my head and figure out who I am again without all this other baggage and people. And
It's amazing how similar, because I was doing the same thing. Like I was a supplemental caregiver for my grandpa, and then I had custody of my two nephews. So I was like, so I'm a dad and I'm doing like these things, and it's like it weighs on you a lot.
yeah,
And we lost a family member who had cancer, and it was just like going through that process. And even though there are many hands involved and everybody's trying to do their piece, it really felt like a lot to carry, man. It was so much that at some point, even my grandfather said, and I talked to him on Sunday, he's like, you've got to go live your life now. He's like, it's time for you need to go. And that was for me the biggest like lift, that permission from like basically the patriarch of my family. Is like, he's saying like, I understand, thank you for everything you've done, and I know you want to stay, but you really do need to live your own life at some point. You got to go on.
yeah, yeah, and it's I totally feel you, man. I totally feel you. And it's not even that it was a bad situation, it was just bad for me in this time.
Yeah.
So
No, I don't regret any of the things. I'm glad I was there for everybody. I was glad I was able to do the things I could do. But you do have to self-care is a real thing.
you just totally broke up.
Care of yourself. You can't do that. You can't take care of other. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now you're back. Okay, great.
Oh.
So yeah, so what we heard is that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. And I truly believe
absolutely.
that. I truly believe that. And it's one of the things that I had to learn. I came up with a system of, and it's very similar to yours. Actually, it's kind of funny. My morning routine is very similar. I do a lot of journaling. It starts with 20 to 30 minutes worth of exercise. There's a really cool app. You were talking about apps. 8Fit is the one I always recommend.
Okay.
And because I'm not in shape. I was never in shape. In my best shape, I wasn't in shape. We were joking about that the other day. I marched 3 years worth of drum corps, literally working out every day, running, like exercising, stretching, like the best shape I would ever be in my life. And I was still chubby. Like, how does that happen? Like, I was still like not okay. I was still like,
I would say, so I just want to say for anybody that's listening, the chubby part is a bit of is a misnomer, and it's not a great metric. Like, and I will allude to, I'm a huge boxing fan. Like I said, I love martial arts and I love boxing. The current heavyweight champion of the world, if you look at him, Anthony Ruiz, He doesn't look like he's chiseled from granite like the opponent, Anthony Joshua, who he just beat.
Okay.
But he's in shape. They fought. I mean, this guy can get in the ring for 12 rounds. It's not just about like how you look. There's plenty of people that look the part that are not healthy and they're not fit. So as long as your diet is good, I would say like a better metric is like how you feel when you do have to exert yourself. Like if you can go out on a run or you can go out on a walk or you can get on the treadmill, you can go and you can get your heart rate level up and you feel pretty good. Like, I mean, you want to push yourself a little bit. Like you're supposed to get it elevated, but you're not like, oh, totally taken out and your diet is healthy. I think that's it. Like if you're dad bod, whatever bod, that stuff doesn't matter. Like for me, it's a personal thing, and I got it early. The reason why I am the way I am, the way I look, is really silly, honestly. If I told you the reason why, it's based on comic books. I grew up reading Spider-Man comics, and I've always wanted to look like Spider-Man. That's it. It's not about anything else.
That is amazing.
So I'm like...
You know that's the clip, right?
Oh gosh.
The reason I'm fit is because I want to look like Spider-Man. That's the clip. That's it. That is awesome.
Yeah, everything else is for enjoyment. Like, I mean, you should enjoy life. You should definitely it shouldn't be burdensome. It shouldn't feel like a job. I mean, like, you know, it's just your body. You want to take care of it. And that's why I did it through sports or activities that I like. Like find activities that keep you mobile, keep you active, that are good for you, that you enjoy.
Hated all of them. Hated all the sports. Hated all. We used to, the only place you should ever have to run is to the bathroom.
Or the ice cream truck.
Ice cream truck, yeah. That's the only man you ever chase. Is the man. But you know, it's like, all right, I don't get it. And nowadays, you know, I in the age I am now, in the last few years, I've realized there's some things I actually did like. I liked volleyball a lot. We had a volleyball tournament for a long time. We had a volleyball team at. Again, I grew up in corporate restaurants. So, and we had a little league that we had for all the different restaurants that used to play every week. And just the random stuff like that. Like, okay, I used to like that. I really do like swimming. You know, there was a time when I thought about doing the swim team. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you can find, like, I mean, I always discover new things. Like, I didn't start playing football until I was an adult. Like, I was traveling with other people who played. And so it was a communal thing. So like, oh, we have a weekly game. You should come out and play with us. I'm like, well, I don't know how to play. And they're like, no, come out. We don't take it that seriously. It's just fun. It's exercise. So I went out there and started playing. And I didn't do that until in my 30s. So it was like, oh, okay. This is a thing I discovered. I didn't actually box until I was in my 30s. I didn't discover boxing until my mother, when I was a kid, she was like, no way am I ever letting my kid box. And I was just like, but I want to. And she actually had a friend who came by one day. He actually used to train an Olympian, Mark Breland. And he took me through one session. And he's like, yeah, but I can't train you because I promised your mother that, like, I wouldn't, like. And I'm like, dude, you just put this food, like delicious food in front of me. And we're like, you see this? You can't eat it. Your mom said you can't have it. And it's like, great. So a lot of those things I discovered later, but I keep discovering other sports, like Frisbee golf. Like I discovered when I was working at Team Snap, we went out and it was a lot of fun. It's like, I didn't know you could combine these two things. I like throwing Frisbees. I like golf. Like, let's just use the Frisbee instead. It's like a lot of fun. You get out, it gets you walking. And they took me on a course in Colorado that's like a trail. It's like basically like, it's almost like they just said, would you like something interesting to do while you're walking this trail? You know?
Oh, cool.
And it was a nice combination. And so I'm always up for like some new like activity like that people like introduce me to, because it's like there's so many different ways I would like to have options to stay fit. Maybe I can't keep up this exercise routine. Maybe I can't go to the gym when I'm 70. Maybe I can't play golf when I'm 80. I don't know, but I can walk and I can make walks more interesting. And I'm just always looking for ways to say yes to exercise. Like, give me a reason to say yes.
Yeah, a lot like you. Well, I have a dog. I have a puppy now again. So that's he keeps me busy. Uh, he's 4 months old, and he's the perfect toddler. He
Yeah.
like he's like a toddler boy. I truly, he doesn't want his hairbrush. He doesn't want to sit in your lap. He doesn't want to cuddle. He wants to run. He wants to jump. He wants to like you have to play tug of war. Like
Yeah.
half of my pro half my productivity for the day has been lost to him because he won't let me sit. He won't let me like work long enough. And half the time when I am working, I'm pulling a chew toy.
Oh yeah, they love that.
Yeah, while I'm trying to type and
Yeah.
do a chew toy. So leave me
Yeah, I
alone.
got my sister's dog. I got like we got this little rope, so
Uh-huh.
so that I can sit at the computer with at least one hand on the keyboard, and that
Yeah,
rope is long enough I can do the little tugging because they love to like pull that.
yeah. And if I sit on the couch with the laptop, he's sitting on the laptop until I close it. Yeah, I definitely have to work at a desk with the
Yeah.
toy. It's and before that, right before I got him, I started like really trying. It was when I started going. I'm going nomadic. So what am I really going to be doing? So I upped my Instagram account and I like started taking pictures of the city and like kind of like walking around and what kind of things can I find? What is it that I find beautiful? You know that people may not be seeing.
I would say too, one of my I would go to number one travel tip when you go to a new city. There's almost always a free walking tour.
Okay.
Take that walking tour because that'll give you you'll get a history lesson, which is really good. Two, you're going to walk around, you get a lay of the land, so you get to see like different areas of the city, and that's a lot of times how I build like my morning walk routine is like I base it on the walking tour. It's like, oh, I can see these interesting things, and then I start to diverge from that. But they're usually free. You just tip, you tip the guide,
Okay.
and it's a great way to sort of start. And they're normally midday though, like normally like it's like around noon. So some places I've been, it's been too hot. I'll get to a city, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing a 2 hour walk tour. It's like 90 degrees out here. You can sometimes though find interesting ones that are in the evening. Like once in Prague, we did a really cool one that was in the evening, and that was nice. It was cool. We went through this huge church or this castle, and it was amazing. So there are some options, but typically most cities, they'll have like a free walking tour, and it usually starts in the city square. Wherever that city is, there's always almost everybody has an independent square, like they have like
Yeah.
a monument to when they became independent. And that's usually where you meet up and there'll be somebody there. Or you can find them online. Like there's some good expat or digital nomad groups for a particular city. You can usually find out where the walking tours are there as well. So that's just a good tip. I think is beneficial for anybody that's looking to start in a new city. Like first day, get that walking tour.
Yeah, definitely. And in Detroit, if you're in Detroit, it starts at Shinola Hotel. Actually, it's at 2 o'clock on the weekends.
Oh, cool.
So
Okay.
just in case you're ever in Detroit, I actually a couple of friends of mine just did it because it's a weird. They have two different versions, and they are both very interesting. It goes through the architecture. We have some of the most famous architecture that people don't know is in Detroit. It's
Okay.
all over all kinds of images, and it's all out there, and it's printed everywhere. But it's actually from Detroit. And they think it's from New York because this Albert Kahn, who designed a lot of everywhere, but a lot of New York's like monuments, actually did a lot, built Detroit. So all the skyscrapers here are pretty much Albert Kahn's.
So what would you say, because food is going to be the number one attraction for me to ever visit any
Yes.
city. What is a Detroit dish? Like if I were, what would I eat when I come to Detroit?
Three things. Okay, because we're very heavy Middle Eastern, so you're going to get shawarma somewhere.
Okay.
Preferably in Dearborn. Go out just outside the city, just southwest of the city is a city called Dearborn. It's the highest population of Middle Eastern people outside the Middle East.
Okay.
So
Is that where GM was headquartered? Is that where GM was?
Ford is in Dearborn. GM is
Okay.
in Sterling Heights. I'm like, where is
Okay.
GM? Where's the building? I'm looking at the building right now.
Uh,
I'm like, where is that? That's Sterling Heights.
okay.
So,
Dearborn from
oh no,
Elevation.
I lied. GM moved downtown. It's at the Rensen.
Okay.
So yeah, Chrysler is on Sterling Heights. Um, but we have so that a Coney. So it's
Tony.
a Coney Island. Coney dog is Detroit. It's a hot dog with chili, but it's a special chili. You get it
Okay.
if you're in Detroit. Go to National or American. They're right next to each other, but they're like, and they were brothers at one time. There's a big, huge history. Walk into one and have them
All
tell you
right.
why the other one sucks. It's amazing,
Okay.
and it's
Oh wow.
literally it's a little corner. It's a little corner restaurant. It's a triangle, and the front half of the triangle is one restaurant, and the back half of the triangle is another restaurant. And they were brothers at one point, and they separated the recipe.
Oh
Brother wanted to do
jeez.
something, and the other brother wanted to do something else. So
That's
definitely go and do that. Um,
all right.
and maybe do even both sides of it, and have them.
Okay,
Why
just
is
so I
this
can
one better?
taste
Just-
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then pizza. We have a deep dish pizza that's amazing. And if you're gonna do that, Buddy's is amazing, and Pizza Popolis down in Greektown.
Okay. All right. All right. I like this. I got that's a good enough list of things to eat. And there are a couple other places that I know I'm going to visit when I go to Detroit, of course.
Yeah,
So gives me a Hitsville I've got to go, and then I'm going to Crunch Gym. So like that rounds
yeah.
out like a nice little excursion to Detroit. Cool. Cool.
If if you're interested in the music of Detroit, do the Detroit Historical Museum too.
Okay.
Um, it was they do a really good job with it. They really did, and it's a much smaller space than you would think about.
Mhm.
Um, and they actually did a really cool Detroit. There was this area of Detroit that was called Black Bottom, and it was lower income. It was basically African American for the most part, and they cleaned it all out. They basically raised it to put
Mhm.
an expressway in that didn't need to be there, and they're
Oh,
taking the expressway out now. So that's what the funny thing is that the expressway never needed to be there,
yeah.
and but they really just wanted to take out
Get
that
rid of it.
area.
Yeah.
Um, it was really it was bad, but they built a replica of the streets down in the lower level of the Detroit Historical Museum,
Okay. All
and
right.
so it's really kind of cool, and it's a very historically interesting thing to take a tour of.
All right. I've got that on the list too.
Yeah,
This is
that's your
this,
Detroit list, and now, um, wow, what are some? We just got a whole bunch of new stuff. Like literally, Detroit is amazing right now. It's actually a tourist destination for the first time in like 40 years.
okay.
Um, they just built. We have 3 brand new stadiums. We have two new skyscrapers. They have reopened 5 skyscrapers that had been vacant since early 80s.
So what's happening? I'm curious about the business end of that because like what's happening? Who's coming in there taking up that space? Like the auto industry, is it just resurging, or are there other types of industries coming in?
No, believe it or not, she was she was very hit about this. But we had a Governor Granholm, that
Mm,
tried to diversify, and she brought in movie industry and other stuff, but at the detriment of the auto industry. So there was some
mm,
stuff in the auto industry that went away, and
okay.
she brought in to try to diversify because the auto industry, like literally, was 90% of our stuff
Okay.
and our economy based off of it and the service of the auto industry. And
Okay.
so we have CompuWare came in, um, and they make computers, obviously, which they were bought by. They bought Dell, or Dell bought them, because I think it was, but it was a software company, and then Rock Financial, mortgages. He started buying big sloths. He owns a lot of, I think from his skyscraper, I think everything he sees he owns.
Okay.
So and he's just done a lot to restore parks, like lower level stuff. You know what I mean? Like safety. They've done a lot of work getting it safe. They've really cleaned up downtown. We were joking about a year and a half ago. I went downtown with a friend. We were bar hopping,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this little, and I know this is going to sound horrible, but there was this little white girl. She
Mm-hmm.
looked like she was 12. She was
Mm-hmm.
real thin. She was probably in college, or just out of college, but she was real tiny, probably like 5'2", and riding her bike at 2 o'clock in the morning in downtown Detroit. And we both just stopped and just watched her go by, because it's changed so much that that's safe. That
Okay.
when we were growing up, she was a heavier. She grew up in Detroit, and she goes, "I want to ride my bike down here." You know,
Okay.
I
Okay.
walked, I walked through an area that 5 years ago wasn't safe. Like you would probably be killed. Earlier today.
Okay.
It's just like they've cleaned out that area. They've been really researching it, and it's been going on since the 90s. But it's starting to like, there was this big push for Detroit 2020, and they've really
Mhm.
pushed that, and they kind of made it. There's
Okay.
still some work to do. There's a lot of work to do. There will be work to do forever, but you know, it's no longer to a point where it's the wasteland that it was.
Okay.
Now you have to look at, you can actually go pretty much anywhere in the city and find a vibrant community that's kind of nestled.
Okay.
And a lot of it's been gentrified.
Yeah, I've seen like, I remember seeing postings about like the houses and like housing prices and like certain neighborhoods where you could buy, you know, these buildings for next to nothing. You
Yeah.
know, it's like very, very low prices. I was just curious that what was like causing that sort of resurgence and where the influx of dollars was coming from.
Um, Believe it or not, Oprah came to town, and invested a lot of money. She's a part of a group that invested a lot of money. Um,
Okay.
they really made a concentrated effort in Detroit.
Okay.
Um, we got a new mayor, and he's the first one that hasn't been corrupt in like 15 years. Um,
Yeah, I remember hearing about one of those figures.
Kwame is, it's crazy. And the problem is that it was three in a row. Like Dennis Archer,
Yeah.
he was there for one term, and he was actually good. But he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? And flat out said, if I would have stayed, I would have. There was just too much temptation, and I can't be there
Yeah.
because I would ruin my
Okay.
name by being here.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and this guy is the first guy that I think that has actually been in there. They brought in a police chief that actually cares,
Okay.
um, and is actually doing a good job with it. So it just really started cleaning up big swaths, uh,
Okay.
neighborhoods where they go in and raid the neighborhood. It's not raiding a house; they go in and raid a neighborhood and clean out the neighborhood of all the drugs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, it make it difficult. Not that it cleans everything out, but there's drugs everywhere. I don't care if you're Birmingham has I know where the drug house is. In the
Yeah.
richest neighborhood
Yeah.
in town. Someone
Yeah.
goes, if you need drugs, it's right here. I'm like, I
Okay.
don't need drugs.
Yeah.
Well, they're right there if you need them. It's whatever. Um, yeah, so I think that's what it is. And then there started to be interest. Once you start seeing it and it starts kind of happening, you go, oh, okay, okay. I remember back the lofts back in like 2000. There was this big set of Woodward lofts were
Mm-hmm.
built and mixed use, and mixed use wasn't. even the mixed use that these are don't look like what you think about mixed use anywhere else in the world. They were still in there's a store downstairs and like apartments upstairs, and
Okay.
yet, like it doesn't look like what now we hear mixed use and it's this like metal and glass building that
Yeah.
it's there. So I had a chance to buy one of the lofts for 30,000 that now go for almost 250.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wow.
To give you an idea of the difference, house
Yeah.
I lived in a house in Woodbridge, they were all the old Jewish mansions of the city leaders. A
Mhm.
lot of Victorians, a lot of like really nice, like not necessarily big, huge houses, but bigger than average. And they had, I lived, there was a coalition that bought up like big swaths of those for $1 each and restored them. And now my brother, the one next to my brother's house, my brother bought his just in time. The one next door to him went for 250, and it was one of the ones that they bought. So to give you an idea of like they bought it for $1 10 years ago, and it's two
Wow.
hundred fifty
That's
thousand
insane.
dollars, and it's literally right downtown. So just big, huge. People went in and started investing and started like restoring and tore down some of and it started in the center, and it's kind of moving its way out. And the problem I lived on the outskirts of Detroit, and I was in one of the areas they pushed things to before
Okay.
this um, chief came in and he started like going. He went from the outskirts. The middle is kind of taken care of, and he went to the
Hmm.
outskirts to start raiding. And,
Okay.
and it's like, yeah. So that's the difference.
Okay. 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 I definitely have to go and visit, man. I haven't seen that part of the U.S. Like that's one of the parts of the U.S. I've not visited. Midwest. It was my mother lived there briefly in the '90s, and she was like, "No, we can't live here." So,
Oh,
um, yeah, and so we never ended up moving. But Chicago, Detroit, Milwaukee, all that Midwestern, like
yeah,
anywhere past Ohio, I've not spent any time in U.S. cities. So that was also part of like my desire to do the road trip
uh
or
huh,
get in the RV and travels to finally see some of the states that I just have never visited before. Like the Pacific Northwest, I have not visited. Um, I haven't done. I mean, there's a lot of it. I mean, I spent most of my life on the East Coast, like just most of it, and then flying over a bunch of places to get to California for work and other
yeah.
things, and that's it. So
The,
in Vegas, I mean, like, yeah, I know Vegas, Nevada, but that's it.
I went to Vegas for the first time last year. Pretty much
Wow.
anything west of the Mississippi, I like you. I flew over. I went to California a couple times. Everything on this side of the Mississippi, I've been through and up and
Yeah.
done. But
Yeah.
because I traveled, I toured, so it was like, oh yeah, I was all over there. But anything west of the Mississippi, I just didn't do.
Yeah. I remember the first time I went west, I was doing a training at a library in, I guess I was in Tennessee. Yeah. And then I mentioned that I had not been west of the Mississippi. So they literally got me in the car and drove me across the river. So I was like, you're not going to be able to say that anymore.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, just exploring like the food. I'm a big fan of like I said, the food, and like I try to travel around that. Like I really do enjoy sampling like local cuisine. I watched the show on the Food Network, and the host was touring barbecue places.
okay,
So I mapped out a tour and I started in North Carolina with Eastern Carolina style barbecue and drove all the way to Texas, to Austin, to go eat at the Salt Lick, which I found out later after I talked to people in Austin. They're like, no, that's not the best barbecue. You got to go to this other place, which
yeah.
is always the case, right? You go to some place and I was like, nah, you want to get it over at this
You
place.
look at this place, yeah.
But it was really good because I stopped. I did barbecue in North and South Carolina. I did Georgia, Louisiana, um, Texas, and Arkansas, and then Tennessee. So those were my barbecue stops.
Okay.
And that was like, so I got to sample all of these different styles, different sauces, different meats, you know, different sides.
Yeah.
Different things. You know, everybody does something differently. But I'd like it with other foods in the rest of the U.S. because I do that internationally now. I go to a place, of course, every country has their own cuisine or even their own take on a certain dish. So we're sitting around eating the other day and we're talking about like even just like rice and beans, like how everyone does rice and beans differently. It's like here in Colombia, you get a comida típica and it's different than some other countries. Like, oh, you got to have it in Guatemala, you got to have it in Costa Rica, you got to have it. And it's just like I love coconut rice. Like they have it here, and it's just amazing. So that like to eat today, when I leave, I'm gonna go get probably like I'll get the coconut rice when I'm getting the some shrimp or some trout. Like I love the fish. Like so they just do like this grilled fish, and then you get the rice and patacones, which is like the fried plantain. So I'm like, I'm just living my best food life right now.
The fried plantains are amazing. When I lived in West Palm Beach, it was Cuban, so
Yeah.
I got into the plantains, chicken, the Cuban chickens, and the Cuban sandwiches, the pork rolls, and like
Yeah.
Oh,
and the yuca, I actually still prefer the yuca Cuban style. The way the Cuban style of making yuca to me is like the best. Like I really, really just love it. And I do sometimes I'll like when I have ample cooking space, I'll take cooking classes locally too, just to learn how to make dishes.
Yeah, that would actually be kind of fun to take a cooking class in all the different countries.
Yeah, it's now I haven't done it in every country. I usually try to find like if there's a decent like school where you can go in and you can learn, or somebody might be doing. I guess should look at more Airbnb experiences because I think people do like in-home cooking classes. Like I've done an in-home cooking class too a couple of times, and they've been really good. Like in Uruguay, I've done one in Spain. Like learn how to make like a proper Spanish tortilla, learn how to make paella. Like all that in the house, like you're just in the kitchen, like cooking, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean that would be amazing. Just you know, a friend, you know, and have that really local experience.
Yeah.
That is really awesome. Well, Alondo, I could keep talking to you for hours and hours and hours. I don't know how I'm going to edit this down into something that's usable.
Yeah.
You're amazing. So where can people find you? Where can they find you online?
Okay, online, you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at the Cocoa Nomad. Cocoa like the chocolate, and my complexion, which is why I have the name Cocoa Nomad.
Yeah.
And also the cocoanomad.com, and you can go there as well. I blog occasionally. And I started a new podcast, the Cocoa Nomad podcast. You can find on pretty much all of the iTunes, Spotify, everything. So you can look for it there. I talk about productivity. I talk about what I'm working on, just kind of sharing those experiences. And I try to like just make sure like I talk about being positive and finding techniques and tools that you can use to keep moving forward and do your best work and live your best life. That's pretty much what I'm all about.
That is awesome. I admire you. I hope that we get to meet on the road someday because you're amazing. I am so thankful that you came on, and thank you so much.
I'm glad you had me. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. And yes, I have tips of places to go. So hit me up offline about when you're ready to go to a place, and maybe we can link up. That would be great, actually. It's always good to have someone else to kind of hang out with and eat with. So
I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready to do a food tour. They were laughing at me the other day. I've lost 40 pounds in the past year. I've lost 10 pounds in the last month and a half. So
that is amazing. What are you doing?
I started really eating at home. Like 90% of my
Okay.
meals now, like literally, it's rare that I eat out. And
Okay.
my
That's
portion
big.
sizes
That's
are. I'm not a huge. I've always been a pretty decent when I'm at home. I'm portion conscious, not necessarily like, oh, I have to have this much and I'm measuring, but I've always been. I'm not
yeah.
a big, huge like I'm going to eat a big, huge plate of anything. So
Okay.
it's just been that's been my go-to is just how do I do that and now that I'm not eating out and I'm not getting that fast food side of that, and that
Yeah.
restaurant side, and because a lot of what I was eating was fast food, so I just keep dropping, and it's literally
Okay.
10 pounds in the last month. People were
That's
noticing
really,
it.
really good.
I had a friend that noticed I did a video live on Facebook last night from the hotel I was in, and he goes, "You've lost a lot of weight." And I'm like, "I was just on a video last week. I'm not lost that much weight." And they had a scale in there. I'm like, "Oh, I guess I did. I've lost 10 pounds in the last month." Okay. Yeah.
That's a good feeling though. Like,
Yeah.
especially when people notice, like, and you get those compliments, like it's really good. I had a similar experience. I dropped some weight. Like I the heaviest I've ever been is just under 200 pounds. So I've never been a very, very large person.
Yeah.
Mexico, the lady, the at me and she came in, I was like, thank you. Because I was consciously trying to change diet and exercise and stuff to slim down. And
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a huge one. Like not eating out, it's a big one. Like you said, not eating fast food can definitely have a major impact.
And it's not necessarily not eating out, but it's not eating fast food.
Okay. Okay.
It's like
Yeah.
there's a difference of going into even the Coney Island. I have a local Coney Island that they're good, but if you're gonna go in, if you're in Detroit, you have to go there because it's there. It's
Okay.
like what originated the whole culture around it, and you'll hear all kinds of why this place is better than that place, and it's crazy. But they have this one's a really good low restaurant, and they have a lot of really good food. And I don't necessarily eat a coney when I'm there anymore. I have a stir fry, and it's things like I'm not eating the hamburger anymore. I'm having a chicken salad, or
Okay.
I'm having a chicken sandwich. I
Yeah.
still might have the fried chicken sandwich, but I'm not having the hamburger that's full of
Yeah.
everything. So that's kind of been
Gotcha.
my
So little tweaks there
little
that
tweaks
add up.
and
Okay.
moving and really being serious about I have to get up every day, I have to go for a walk every day, I have to go I'm doing I was on the app for a while and keeping that going, the workout going, and what am I going to do today to make that work, you know so it's just that's what it's been, and it doesn't feel like I've done everything. It's a
Yeah.
great thing. So but
That's great though. It
I
really is like you're making the habitual changes. Like you're
mhm.
changing so that it's not like a laborious thing. Because I think that's what derails people. It's like they try to do a thing and then they can't maintain it. You've got these things that are sustainable and maintainable, so you can keep doing it.
Yeah, and you don't know, and for me it's like I wasn't out to lose weight, and yeah,
Yeah,
and like you, I was pushing 200. I came real close to it, like I was at like 195, and I'm 5'6", so
yeah.
195.
It looks.
I was like a size I was like a size out of shape, right? I was like
Yeah,
just like, okay, you're fat, you're not necessarily, and I wasn't necessarily fat, but I was like, I'm just a size out of shape. It's
yeah.
just the wrong size. I'm at three. I started hitting at 36. Like by 34, starting getting tight, and I'm like,
Uh,
no, no. And now I don't have a pair. I don't have a pair of pants that fit me. Not
Ooh.
not one pair of pants fit me anymore. And I'm down.
Oh.
I'm actually thinner than I was in high school.
Oh wow. That's
Yeah,
actually. I don't think I can ever get that down that low. Wow, small in high school. But I will say another travel tip:
yeah,
shoes and pants, and like get comfortable stuff that you like that fits you now, because it's not necessarily easy to find Like clothes are really, really hard or challenging on the road. Like, I mean, you can go buy certain things, but it's really been a struggle for me to find pants and shoes, especially.
Okay, that's a good
Yeah.
one. So why is it that the pants are so different? Like I said, I could ask you all kinds of questions.
Yeah.
Why is it that the
Well,
pants are so
so
different?
the cut of jeans, like the cut of pants is like, they're made a lot smaller. People are a lot
Mhm.
smaller, you'll find that when you start traveling and go to these other countries, like everybody's little. So like
Yeah,
the clothes that you go to the mall, they have a mall, but all the clothes are really small. I went to go buy a new pair of shoes. I saw them in the window and they were on sale and they looked great. And then I said, do you have this in an 11? And she just was like, no, like 9. It's like, if your foot is bigger than like a 9, and you're gonna have trouble, especially in like Southeast Asia. Like, good
yeah,
luck. Like, it's gonna be a hard slog finding anything that fits you because everybody is so small. Like, you can't. Now you can get stuff custom made if you want to
Mhm.
go that route. But for dress clothes or like dressier clothes, that's great. But like for blue jeans, I'm like, I just wanted a pair of jeans. I just want to walk in here and like pick a pair off of the shelf. So
Yeah,
they're harder to find. So I've had some difficulty. I actually had, when I make my annual trip home, is like I'll stock up on, like, I'll get 2 pair of blue jeans that'll like I can just wear during the year,
yeah,
and a couple of t-shirts and things or shoes and things that I'm pretty sure I can't find easily anywhere else. So
yeah. It's actually funny because here in the States, Wish is one of the things that is really big, and basically it's overseas clothing, right? And
mhm.
they're importing it, and they import it real cheap. You could get like things for like shirts for like $5, $4, and like nice shirts, dress shirts, and things like that. And my size is a 3X, and I'm a medium in US. Like I'm almost a perfect medium shoulder wise. So
Okay.
like I'm a 3X in all the Chinese clothing and all the Asian clothing, and I'm like, okay, because everything's a little clingy and the material's a little tighter too. It's like not the same materials that they don't use cotton as much or in the same way.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
Glad you like
it's
that.
you'll definitely see that. You should just go shopping and just like try to try on clothes when you're traveling, just to get a feel for like how different it is. Like, I pulled a medium off a shelf and I'm just like, I look like a baby in a onesie. Like, I'm just like, I can't even get this thing. It's
how
ridiculous.
how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So I might be able to get away with it because I'm shorter. I'm 5'6", so the things are actually probably will fit me better lengthwise than
Yeah, you won't have any trouble with the length. It's the cut. It's gonna be
yeah
the cut, like the shirts and stuff. Like you say, like you think you're small, and then you go over there, you're gonna be like, oh wait, I'm still bigger than just everybody in here. Like it's people are really, really small in a lot of places. That I found it shocking. Like, I walk down the street and I'll see like people walk by, and I'm like, they're just, and everything's proportioned. They're just smaller
yeah.
people. Like, I guess, like, Western countries, human beings are just like bigger. Like, you're just like taller, you
Uh-huh.
know, you know. But
Well,
yeah, shopping's an experience.
even the U.S., Asian, it's a joke that Asians are smaller, tiny little Asian men. You know,
Yeah.
if I shorter than me, I'm short. I'm 5'6". I'm short, and it's funny because my brothers are all over 6 foot. I
Oh,
had I
wow.
had 3 brothers over 6 foot. I got my mom's short gene, and I got
Okay.
the weight gene where all my brothers are over 6 foot and under 130 pounds, so they're tall and thin.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and and right now I'm 155 at 5'6", so I actually outweigh them being shorter. So it's crazy.
Yeah, you, you definitely, you totally see this in Latin America too. Like, people are really small. Like, they're
Yeah.
really small people. Yeah, it's something to see. Like, I feel better because, like, I'm taller
Uh huh.
here than I am in the US. In the US, I'm like, all these tall people walking by. Here, I'm like, yes, I am.
Oh, especially being in Atlanta. I was there and
Yeah.
I've never felt so short in my life. I did a convention in Atlanta with some authors, and oh my God, I never felt, they're all over 6'3". Like 6'3" was
Yeah.
short, and I'm looking around like I'm in walls. All around me is a wall. So
Yeah, I always felt small growing up, and I always felt like everybody was so much taller than me. It just like felt
yeah.
like I was just walking among giants. But I don't feel that way anymore.
See, isn't it awesome? That's
It
to
is.
change your whole, and you have such a, in the United States, I've noticed that even for me and other people, United States is number one, and we're this and we're that, we're the superpower, and we're this and that and this, and we have this like this different view, and then you realize you go outside of the United States, and it's like that might not be true, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's one of the bigger lessons was getting that perspective coming from, you get a different perspective on everything, like from not just the culture, the food, the way you see yourself as an American, like coming out, the way you see your country back home, you go watch the news, like how we're involved, like, wow, from another person's perspective, we're involved everywhere. And it's kind of
Yeah.
like, why are we everywhere? Like, it doesn't have the same.
There was a and this comes from history, actually. It's kind of funny. There was a moment where we were trying to be in during the world wars, that it was a conscious decision when we went into the wars that we were going to police the world,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
and we have
It's been our policy since.
since.
It,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it was a very different
And it,
before then.
yeah, it really is like the level of, it's like interaction and intervention is like really high. And then you see from a local's perspective, like the things that the things that are important to them are different
Uh-huh.
usually. I mean, there are some commonalities, of course. Everybody's like, family and the kids, and that's another thing. It's like blew my mind. It's like how family oriented some of these cultures are. Like we say that in the States, and we like to use terms like family values and all these things, but it's just like, no, they are really family oriented. Like it actually means something, and they follow up. And it's
Right.
like the way I was so touched watching people with their elderly parents walking around, like they hold their hands and they
Yeah.
walk all the time. And the kids are like with their parents. Like I've never seen more dads with kids anywhere than nice, like Mexico City, and like even here in Colombia, it's like they're always there. And then dogs. Like I thought Americans love dogs. Mm. Mexico's got dogs on a whole nother level, man.
Yeah.
They love dogs. Like everywhere you go. In my neighborhood, there are like 3 brick and mortar dog groomers and then a mobile dog groomer who comes to a particular parks at certain times of the day. And you see the dogs in there, and they're just getting like Vidal Sassooned up, and just like,
Uh-huh.
I mean, they're not playing around with their dogs. Dogs are like, the dog parks are everywhere. And they're like well like taken care of, and they're well behaved too. So like the
Yeah.
dogs, like you don't get a lot of like dogs barking at you or yelping. The little ones, yeah, but they're little dogs. That's what they do.
That's what
Um,
that's their job.
yeah, exactly. They got to show you that they're there. But
Yeah.
like the dog culture is really impressive. Like I really and they'll have like the pound will have like they'll have like dogs out for adoption.
Mhm.
And I've come close. That's one of the reasons why on certain days I actually avoid the park, because I'm like I'm gonna end up with a dog. I'm gonna come home like, what am I gonna do? Like, how do I explain this? Like I got a dog now, and I have to build a life around it.
Uh-huh. And it's funny because even okay, so the hotel I stayed at, actually I feel bad. But the hotel I stayed at, I wanted to take my dog, and I couldn't because
Yeah.
they don't allow it at this hotel. And I was like, oh my goodness, how am I gonna do that? But the city I'm in currently, in this location it's the city next to me actually, where I live, but where I'm home based now. But this city is huge on dogs. Like literally, there's water bowls everywhere on all the store shops. There's I think four brick and mortar groomers, 2 boarding houses, and there is a mobile groomer that comes around, but they're not as like that. You literally have to call them; they'll come to your house. Um, I know because I got the card at my house because I'm a mile and a half from where I am right now. And yeah, it's but I could totally see it. Like I totally get that culture, and I it's one of the things I love about having my dog. And I have a little
Yeah.
dog, and I have a Shih Tzu. I've heard him bark, I think, 6 times.
Oh yeah, yeah. My sister's dog when it was a Shorkie. It was a mix of Shih Tzu, Yorkshire, and Shih
Yeah.
Tzu. I love that dog. Like that dog was like, and I was the person that said don't get a dog. I was
Uh-huh.
like, no, we shouldn't get a dog. We don't need a dog. You know, who's gonna take care of it? And then like she gets the dog anyway. That's my sister. That's what she does. And like I fell in love with that daggum dog. I'm like, all right, I love this dog now. I'm here forever. Like it's like can I keep him? Like it's just they really do change. Like
Yeah.
they really have such a positive effect in your life. Like I was very sad that we had to give him away because we moved,
Uh-huh.
and then of course I can't try. I still haven't figured out how to do that yet. I don't know. I know people do travel with their pets, but usually I think they're relocating and they just move to another place. I don't know anyone who's nomadic with like a dog or a cat or you know any pet at all. I've yet to meet anybody who's done it.
There are landmark forum leaders. So I work with Landmark Worldwide. I don't know if I've told you that, but there are forum leaders that do travel with dogs.
Okay.
So and
Okay.
they travel the world. They're literally in for a couple days, and they travel like on a stupid pace that I
Okay.
don't know how they do it, but they do travel with dogs. But they have people that walk them in the centers. They will go to the hotel. There's somebody from the center that's assigned to go walk the dog.
Okay.
So
So
it's like a
that can
forum
be
leader.
done.
Yeah, a forum leader. Imagine Tony Robbins walking
Mm-hmm.
into your building, and whatever he wants, he gets, right?
Okay.
So he is the equivalent of a forum leader. As a matter of fact, he's been trained through the landmark system. So, it's fun. And there's 34 of them
Okay.
worldwide.
What,
And
Tony Robbins?
yeah, Tony Robbins was trained as a forum leader.
Okay.
So landmark
Did not know
was
that.
yeah, it was landmark was really the first self-help. Things that you don't even think of that are just common knowledge came from landmark's technology, like breakthrough. That's a landmark world. There's a distinction. It was from the
Mm-hmm.
70s that they came up with. So anything self-help like it probably comes from Alan Watts or Landmark Worldwide. That's the two places. You'd be surprised how much of it comes from those two places. And you froze again.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a little reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's starting to get a little wonky.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so much again. I so enjoyed this conversation. Like I said, I could sit here for another hour and probably talk to you just because it's interesting and great. And
Yeah, I actually thought it was only going to be an hour. I really had a good time. This is great. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
yeah, and like I said, my schedule was an hour. And I was going to cut it down to a half hour talk, for a few minutes, cut it to a half hour. I don't know how I'm going to cut this into something useful, like a useful amount of time.
Gotcha.
This might end up being an hour conversation by the end of it. But thank you so much. I will see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah, and keep me posted. Let me know when the episode drops and when the podcast goes live because I want to add it to my listening rotation.
Yeah, July 1st. As a matter of fact, you are the first one, and you will be on July 1st. So I could tell you
Oh,
that.
awesome. Okay.
I have said that I was
Cool.
releasing it July 1st. So therefore, I have to release something on July 1st. Kind of thing.
There you go. You got to set those goals. You got to have the
To
targets.
push a deliverable out. Like you were saying,
Yeah,
you have to
that's
push
right.
deliverable, and you have to tell somebody a deliverable is happening. This is my
That's
deliverable.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. Well, I'm
I,
looking forward to hearing it, and looking forward to hearing from you. Actually, we'll stay in touch offline, and well,
good.
online, but off
Online, yeah.
off the podcast. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you so
talk to you
much.
soon. Thanks, Alondo.
Take care.